Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're enjoying the last bits of summer. I'm back in my office today because it has been too hot to work in here. It has been 106 outside, 102, 104, and this room is mostly windows. So I've been working in the dining room. Hopefully, you have enjoyed the change of scenery, but it's only supposed to be 89 today. So I'm excited about working on doing a little bit of planning today. Planning has no season. Planning is such an important part of anything we do, especially if it involves any kind of spending. And when I look at early retirement, I am constantly in the planning mode of what I can afford, what I can do, what I want to do next that excites me, that I can look forward to. And I keep little lists all the time going of things I'd like to see or do, or things I want to get done. And I refer to those lists often. But right now, since it's getting towards the end of summer, I'm thinking about the winter. I'm thinking about what I want to do this winter. Do I want to winter again in Texas? Do I want to go somewhere new? And that's where part of my planning takes place. And it gets me excited about the next few seasons. Hi, everyone. I'm Bonita from rural Kansas, and I am early retired. I retired early at almost 58 years old in October of 2023. I am now 60 years old. I am riding it out until Social Security kicks in, and I love frugal living. I share tips and tricks on this channel, and it has afforded me the opportunity and choices to have the freedom that I wanted at an earlier age. I hope you enjoy this video. As several of you know, I did a car camping trip this past winter for 19 days, and I hit New Mexico, Arizona, and California primarily. The 2 years before that, I wintered in South Texas, 3 miles from the Mexico border, in my RV in a little 55 and over park that I enjoyed so much. So, how do I afford to do this in early retirement on a very low income? And the whole secret is planning what I can afford to do, planning to take things with me that will cut the cost. And a lot of those times they involve a staycation type of travel where you go somewhere and you stay there for a period of time to cut down on your travel costs. And that's what I did in Texas. I went to a specific place with my RV. I rented that spot for 3 to 3.5 months. That cost me about $1,400, and I stayed put. I just traveled and did some sightseeing in the surrounding area because there's so much history and so much to see, usually anywhere you decide to park for a while. That was really enjoyable. I still have a few things on my bucket list that I want to see in that area. And my mother-in-law has asked me to come back this year because she's going down again this year alone since we lost my father-in-law. And a lot of the people were asking about where I was at last year because I had canceled my reservations because he was ill. And once I canceled my reservations, well, then it was hard to get a spot again. So I just decided to do something else this past winter. I used the same theory when I car camped in March. I stayed in a national park for 2 nights at a discounted rate with my America the Beautiful pass. And then I stayed in Quartzsite in the BLM land for a week. And then I stayed at my niece's for 1 night, and I stayed at a hotel for 1 night. All the rest of the time was free parking that I found along the way. But I did a lot of that same staycation type of travel, and that saved me a lot of money. That 19-day car camping trip only cost me around $600. I pack food from my pantry when I go on these trips, and then that just leaves me buying basically perishable items, and that cuts down a lot on my expenses. I already have a full pantry here, and if I'm not going to be here for a while, I don't want the food just sitting here, and keeping that rotated is part of my plan when I travel. So I pack as much as I possibly can with me to cut down on food costs. I also still budget. I still track all of my daily spending, and that keeps me on track as well. So, doing some of these things is affordable if you have some of these basic concepts for money management in place. It doesn't matter where you are. I also have a bucket list of things that I want to have when I do these little trips. I am now at the point in my life where I want comfort, I want affordability, but I also want things that are totally doable, that are not going to cause me stress once I return home. That means I'm not going to return home in debt. I'm not going to return home in a bad situation where like all my food has spoiled because I wasn't here. I want to make sure that all of these things are in place so that I can come home and just pick up right where I left off. And my bucket list includes that I want to be somewhere affordable. So I do a lot of planning ahead of time on what is affordable. So I've talked about this 55 and over park before in Texas. I've shown it to you, and it is a comfortable place. The people are so friendly. In fact, there's a lot of people there from Kansas, but there's a lot of people from all over the states in Canada as well. It's its own little community. People get to know you, they speak to you, you feel safe. And that is really important to me. One of the other things is I like to have a pool or a beach nearby. They have a pool there. They have an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. Padre Island is about 90 minutes from there, so I can go to the beach several times during my stay. And I also like the warm weather. The humidity, not so much. And there is a fair amount of humidity there because it is a subtropical area. But I like the warm weather that is more consistent. And from about February through March, it is very consistent, and you can really enjoy being outdoors. Before that, it can be a little bit hit and miss. I want to be somewhere where I have palm trees, where I have some shade, and where there is some vegetation. So the desert really wasn't my cup of tea, and that's why I probably would not go back there to winter. Even though I did like the climate, it's a lot drier of a climate, and there's a ton of people that go there every single year and absolutely love the desert camping. I want to have things to see and do around the area. And I also want to be fairly close so I can have gas refills and a grocery store and those sorts of things while I am out and about. So, those are some of my requirements. So, as you plan, it is important to know what you want, what would make you happy, what would make you content, what would be worth you leaving your home and doing this for a few months to be able to get a different change of scenery and still do it affordably. And that's why I do it, to get a change of scenery. Plus, I do not like Kansas winters. They're really hard on my arthritis and my joints. And I really enjoy being somewhere more tropical. I feel like planning is so important. Whether we are living in our homes or whether or not we are deciding to travel frugally, planning versus just going with the flow and not really having a budget and not really having a plan on how our money is going to be spent or how much we are going to spend, that is what gets us no matter where we are at. And I get a lot of people saying, I wish I could afford to do that. But how I do that is I spend what I would normally spend at home, I just spend it somewhere else. And I'm really cautious with my spending to make sure that being away from home is not going to be a hardship on my finances. So that's some of the things that I take into consideration. Now, if you have more money to spend or you have a lot more income coming in, then maybe you can be a little bit more free with your money. And when my husband and I travel, we're a little bit more free with our money because there are both of us together and we're using some of our savings to travel. But when I go by myself, I am using my normal income that I get every single month. I am not dipping into my savings so that I can still do some fun things. And I don't mind traveling solo. Honestly, there is a freedom to that if you have not experienced it, I'll try to describe it to you. You don't have to worry about when someone else is tired, when someone else needs to go to the bathroom, when someone else is hungry, when you want to stop for the night, when you want to leave in the morning, what you want to see as a group. You can do what you want when you feel like it. If you decide to stay somewhere for a couple of days, you can stay for a couple of days. If you want to stay longer, you can. You don't have to check in with someone else. I love having my husband with me. We have a great time. But when I'm by myself, there is just a sense of freedom that you can't tap into anywhere else. And people will ask if I get lonely. I don't get lonely. I've learned how to be home a lot by myself, keep myself entertained. And when I am out and about and exploring, that is keeping me entertained, and I'm seeing something new and exciting all the time. I get to read a lot of books with total peace, no interruptions. Yeah, I enjoy going solo, and I also enjoy going with my husband. One of the things that we don't talk about when we're trying to plan where we might go for a while for a trip or for a staycation, like I just talked about, is the air quality. There can be pollution, there can be funny smells depending on what type of plants are in that city, or there can be a weird air quality that keeps you in your RV. And that's what happened to me the last time I was in Texas. We had a bunch of days that the air quality, due to particles and dust, was in like the orange and the red, where I couldn't open the windows of my RV and I couldn't open the screen door. And I just had to stay inside the RV with the door shut. And that was really surprising to me. But it's around a big metro area, and there are millions of RVers and retirees that come there every single winter. So there's a lot of car pollution, and there's a lot of businesses with probably air quality pollution. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're going to be around an area that big, but I didn't experience it the year before that I stayed there. So, look at the air quality. Don't just assume it's the same as wherever you are at. It's always good to be aware of your surroundings, because it may not be like where you came from. Our air quality here in Kansas, where I live, is always good. Now, if you look at your maps and you scroll down to air quality, it will tell you what range it is in and whether or not there's air quality warnings for your area. Yes, we have wheat dust, we have blowing dirt, we have pollen, we have a lot of that stuff here. But I've never ever seen our quality in the orange unless we had wildfires or something. And I saw it quite a few days the last year that I spent in South Texas. So, the biggest trick I feel like in planning is to take certain questions into consideration. And I made a list of those questions. So, what are you used to? What do you expect every single day? What have you pictured your travel or your retirement to look like? Tapping into those things and part of that expectation is what will keep you happy, is what will keep you excited about tomorrow, is what will get you out of bed to try new things. So it's important to kind of have an idea of what we expect, what we're used to, what we've pictured our retirement or our travels to look like, and what would you be satisfied with. So if you go down there and it's not what you expect and you've spent some money, are you going to be disappointed? So do your research and get some feedback from some areas down there on what it is actually like. Maybe view some videos or look at some reviews to see what that area is like, to see if it will meet your expectations before you get there. And then what would you be totally disappointed with? So if you look at the climate and it's going to be 110 when you're planning to go, maybe look at a different time of year. I went in March to New Mexico in Quartzsite. The last day I was going to be there, it was going to be like 105. It wasn't supposed to get hot that soon, but it did. And I was already leaving the state then, but I definitely would not have wanted to stay any longer. So you really want to look at that climate and when the rainy seasons are, wind, there are hurricane seasons, all those different things that go into when your vacation is. If you take a vacation and it pours rain the whole time you're gone, you're going to be disappointed. So we can't always predict the weather, but we can get a good idea on past trends and from people's feedback on what it is like when we are choosing when and where and what we want to do. So if you have the right idea of what you want your choice to be and what location you want it to be, you can always change it. You can always adapt. You don't have to be locked in. So I had friends and family that were already in this 55 and over park. My mother and father-in-law were down there. They already had friends from the area that they lived in Kansas. They told me there were a lot of Kansas people down there. I had an entire year that I just asked them questions. What's the pool like? How far are you from the beach? What's the weather like? I asked them tons of questions. What kind of activities are there to do? Are people friendly? On and on and on. And I just flooded them with questions over that entire year before I made up my mind that I wanted to give it a whirl. And that really helps if you know somebody that has maybe traveled to this area or stayed in this area for a length of time, to get some of that feedback to make sure that your dollars are going to be well spent and you're going to be satisfied once you get down there. Retirement can be fulfilling even on a low income. But a lot of these questions that you ask yourself, what do you expect? What have you pictured? What's going to make you satisfied, dissatisfied? These are important questions to ask yourself no matter where you are, even if you stay at home and traveling is not even on your bucket list. So let me know. If you're retired, have you been disappointed? Have you been satisfied? What are some of the things that bring joy to your day-to-day life? Do you travel? I would love to learn more about you. Thank you for listening today. Give me a thumbs up or a hype if you've enjoyed this type of video, and I hope to see you in the next one.